Abducted and Altered, a tale of alien conspiracies and unearthly powers. Calvin Douglas was an ordinary man with an ordinary life. He worked a 9-to-5 job at a local insurance company, had a loving wife named Emma, and spent his weekends hiking in the nearby woods or indulging in his passion for landscape photography. They lived in a quaint house on the outskirts of town, enjoying the serenity of nature while still being close enough to the comforts of modern society. Life was good, and Calvin was content. However, everything changed one fateful night when he encountered something beyond comprehension. It was a clear summer evening, and Calvin had decided to venture deep into the forest to capture some stunning shots of the night sky. Armed with his camera, tripod, and flashlight, he hiked for hours, finally settling on a spot near a small clearing that offered a breathtaking view of the stars above. As he set up his equipment, Calvin couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end, and he felt an eerie chill run down his spine. He brushed it off as the typical uneasiness that often accompanies being alone in the dark and continued with his work. But as he peered through the viewfinder, he saw something that made his heart race, a bright, pulsating light hovering in the sky. Curiosity piqued. Calvin snapped a few shots of the mysterious light before it suddenly vanished. Moments later, he felt an intense pressure build in his head, followed by a blinding flash of light that enveloped him. The world around him seemed to fade away, leaving him floating in a void, disconnected from time and space. Calvin awoke to find himself in an unfamiliar environment. The air was cold and sterile, and the dimly lit room was filled with strange, humming machinery. Panic set in as he realized that he was no longer in the woods, but aboard an alien spacecraft. He was strapped to a cold metal table, his arms and legs immobilized, as strange beings with elongated limbs and large, almond-shaped eyes moved about the room, studying him intently. As the aliens conducted their experiments on him, Calvin felt an indescribable terror, yet his memories of the ordeal remained hazy and fragmented. He remembered needles piercing his skin, bizarre instruments scanning his body, and the sensation of his mind being probed and invaded by unseen forces. When Calvin was finally returned to Earth, he found himself lying in the same clearing where he had been taken, with no memory of how he got there. His camera and equipment were gone, and the once clear night sky was now obscured by clouds. Confused and disoriented, he stumbled back to his car and drove home, his mind reeling from the ordeal he had just endured. As the days went by, Calvin began to notice strange changes in himself. At first, they were subtle. He no longer needed his reading glasses. His hearing had become incredibly acute, and he seemed to have developed an uncanny intuition. But soon, these minor alterations gave way to more astonishing abilities. Calvin discovered that he could manipulate energy with his thoughts, bending and shaping it to his will. He could heal wounds with a touch, mending broken bones and closing deep gashes in a matter of seconds. He even began to see glimpses of the future, flashes of events that had yet to unfold. These newfound powers were both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, they filled him with a sense of wonder and awe, opening up a world of possibilities that he had never before imagined. But on the other hand, they took a toll on his mind and body, causing him great pain and disorientation. As Calvin struggled to come to terms with his new abilities, he began to feel increasingly isolated from the life he once knew. He was terrified of what his wife, friends, and colleagues would think if they discovered his secret, so he hid his powers from them, using them only when he was certain no one was watching. But as his abilities grew stronger and more unpredictable, keeping them hidden became increasingly difficult. Emma, sensing that something was amiss, began to grow concerned for her husband's well-being. She noticed his sudden mood swings, the haunted look in his eyes, and the way he seemed to withdraw into himself, spending hours alone in his study. Desperate to help him, she tried to get him to open up, but Calvin remained tight-lipped, terrified that the truth would drive her away. As the weeks turned into months, Calvin grew more and more obsessed with uncovering the origins of his powers and finding a way to control them. He spent countless hours poring over books about alien encounters and paranormal phenomena, convinced that the key to his transformation lay within their pages. One day, While scouring an online forum dedicated to extraterrestrial experiences, Calvin stumbled upon a post from a woman named Lila who claimed to have been abducted by aliens and subsequently developed psychic abilities. Desperate for answers, Calvin reached out to her, and the two began corresponding, sharing their stories and comparing notes on their newfound powers. Together, they formed a tentative alliance, searching for others who had experienced similar abductions and developed extraordinary abilities. Slowly, they began to unravel the mysteries surrounding their powers, discovering that they were part of a larger group of individuals who had been targeted by the same alien species for reasons unknown. As Calvin and Lila delved deeper into their investigation, they began to uncover a sinister truth. The aliens had been conducting experiments on humans for centuries, manipulating their DNA to create a new breed of superpowered beings. It seemed that the aliens' ultimate goal was to create an army of superhuman soldiers, with abilities far beyond those of ordinary humans, to carry out their bidding on Earth. Horrified by their discovery, Calvin and Lila realized that they could not stand idly by while these extraterrestrial forces continued to meddle in human affairs. They knew they had to find a way to expose the truth and put a stop to the abductions and experiments once and for all. But as they delved deeper into the alien conspiracy, they found themselves being hunted by shadowy forces determined to silence them. Desperate to protect his wife and maintain the life they had built together, Calvin made the difficult decision to reveal his powers to Emma. To his relief, she was not repulsed or frightened by his abilities. Instead, she was filled with awe and wonder, and pledged to help him in his quest to expose the alien conspiracy. As Calvin, Lila, and Emma worked together to gather evidence and track down others who had been affected by the alien experiments, they began to attract the attention of powerful forces who sought to keep the truth hidden. With each passing day, the danger facing Calvin, Lila, and Emma grew more intense. They knew they were being watched, followed by mysterious figures who seemed to appear and disappear at will. These shadowy agents, they discovered, were not human, but rather a part of the alien conspiracy, tasked with ensuring the secrecy of their experiments and silencing anyone who got too close to the truth. As their investigation progressed, the trio uncovered a network of hidden underground facilities where the aliens conducted their experiments on abducted humans. These laboratories were scattered across the globe, concealed beneath the surface and shielded from detection by advanced technology. Determined to expose the conspiracy and rescue the countless victims still trapped within these facilities, Calvin, Lila, and Emma formulated a daring plan to infiltrate one of the underground bases. Using their combined powers and skills, they managed to bypass the facility's security measures and gain access to its inner sanctum. Inside the lab, they were confronted with a scene that defied imagination. Rows upon rows of human test subjects, suspended in stasis chambers, their bodies wired to a vast array of machines and monitors. The facility was a nightmarish vision of science gone wrong, filled with the echoes of pain and suffering. As they explored the underground base, Calvin and his companions made a shocking discovery. The aliens had not only been experimenting on humans, but also on themselves. It appeared that they were attempting to create a hybrid species, combining the strengths and abilities of both humans and aliens in a twisted effort to achieve ultimate power. The deeper they ventured into the facility, the more they realized the magnitude of the alien conspiracy. It seemed that the aliens had infiltrated the highest levels of government and industry, manipulating events and guiding humanity's progress according to their own sinister agenda. As they gathered evidence and documentation of the alien experiments, Calvin, Lila, and Emma knew they had to find a way to bring the truth to light. But with the shadowy forces pursuing them growing ever more relentless and ruthless, they began to fear that they might not make it out of the facility alive. With the knowledge of the alien conspiracy and the grim reality of the experiments weighing heavily on their shoulders, Calvin, Lila, and Emma continued to make their way through the underground facility. They knew that their only hope of stopping the aliens' sinister plan was to get the evidence they had gathered to the outside world. As they approached the exit, they were confronted by a squad of the aliens' hybrid enforcers. These grotesque, powerful beings were the culmination of the aliens' twisted experiments, a fusion of human and extraterrestrial DNA designed for one purpose: to eliminate any threat to the conspiracy. Calvin and his companions fought valiantly, using their newfound powers to fend off the relentless hybrid assault. But as the battle raged on, they realized that their chances of escaping were growing increasingly slim. It seemed that the hybrids were not only resistant to their powers, but also capable of adapting to them and learning new ways to counter their every move. In a desperate bid to ensure that their discoveries would not be in vain, Calvin instructed Lila and Emma to use their powers to transmit the evidence they had collected to a trusted ally on the outside. While Lila focused on sending the data, Emma used her abilities to cloak their location, buying them precious time as the hybrids continued their relentless attack. With the evidence sent, the trio knew they had to make one last stand against the hybrids. But as they prepared to face their fate, a blinding flash of light filled the chamber. In that moment, Calvin's powers seemed to surge, and he found himself able to manipulate time itself. With a sudden burst of energy, he froze the hybrids in place and created a small window of opportunity for escape. As they made their way to the surface, Calvin could feel the strain of his newfound abilities taking its toll. He knew that he couldn't maintain the time manipulation for much longer, and that the hybrids would soon be free to pursue them once more. The trio emerged from the facility into the cold night air, with Calvin's powers beginning to fade. As they made their way toward the safety of their secret hideout, they could hear the sounds of the hybrids in pursuit, closing in on them with every passing moment. Calvin, Lila, and Emma exchanged glances, each understanding the gravity of the situation. The evidence of the alien conspiracy was out there, but their survival was far from guaranteed. With the hybrids closing in and their powers pushed to the limit, the trio knew that they would have to make the ultimate sacrifice to protect the truth. As they stood their ground, ready to face the final confrontation, the world around them seemed to slow, and an eerie calm settled over the battlefield. Would their sacrifice be enough to bring the alien conspiracy to light and save humanity from a dark future? Or would the shadows continue to grow, consuming the world in their sinister grasp? The fate of Calvin, Lila, Emma, and the world hung in the balance, suspended between hope and despair, as the ultimate battle for truth and survival began. Thank you for watching this episode of Wonders of the Unknown. What do you think happens next? Will the trio's efforts be enough to save humanity, or is the world destined for a darker fate? Leave a comment below with your thoughts on the story's conclusion. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thrilling tales of mystery and science fiction. Until next time, this is Wonders of the Unknown, signing off.